Do you actually care about the work that you do? Are you really passionate about the work that you do? Seriously, it's very rare that people these days actually care about the jobs that they do, let alone are passionate about it. I myself have had times where I couldn't give a shit. But a bunch of people that I do feel actually care about their work are the guys over at Killpixel, Slipgate Ironworks, 3D Realms, and Fulqrum. Killpixel being one person though. These guys have come together to produce what started off as just a cool, interesting Quake mod project, and now is something that stands completely on its own, built on an advanced version of the Quake engine called the Dark Places engine. Wrath, Aeon of Ruin exceeded and expanded on everything that Quake did, or at least that's exactly what Killpixel wanted to do in the first place. Today, we're going to be talking about Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, and should you pay coin for it? But more importantly, we're going to talk about what happens when you actually let people who care about their work express themselves in a game. P.S. Before we go any further, Andrew Hulsholt, complete god at music. The soundtrack is not in question. It is awesome. Continue on. Starting out, like any good gamer of the Doom disposition, I went on medium difficulty, thinking that this would be the ultra-violence difficulty. I was wrong. My fuck. Medium difficulty is brutal, and it is no less brutal than easy mode. Sure, it's not impossible, but on your first run, which I didn't finish, medium difficulty is savage. Let's talk about the difficulty for a second. I do enjoy combat-based problem solving, like slaughter maps in Doom or Quake. They can be quite fun. You tend to feel that the modder has an experienced hand behind the scenes. Maps like these are not for noobs. I was shooketh. I had no idea what I was getting into. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. A modder that's been modding Quake for the last 25 years has had a lot of time to get good. But for this review, on the other end of the scale, I went back and finished the game on easy mode. Well, frankly, just to finish the game in a timely manner, and I didn't feel like sweating the entire time. There are some brutal sections in the easy mode, let alone the medium mode. I didn't even play hard. Now look, I know that's a cop-out. A lot of my friends play in hard mode. Well done, guys. Jared, you're a legend. Kick ass, my brother. But I can't finish this on hard mode in, like, this year. Maybe I'll go back. Don't know. Challenge run? 1,000 subscribers. Maybe we can do it. But I look at the bosses, for example. Normally the bosses are positioned as a final challenge for all the skills that you've learned throughout this level or this chapter or this hub in this case. The first boss on Act 1 or Hub 1 was, yeah, a technical challenge. You had to master your mechanics, everything you learned before to defeat the boss. I can respect that. But Hubs 2 and 3 bosses weren't actually difficult, even on the easy mode. In the medium mode, they were meh. These bosses kind of work towards the Doom school of boss beating, which is shoot it until it's dead. Sure, they're interesting, especially the final boss, the dreadful one, my personal favorite, but they're not that tough. Bosses 2 and 3 are slightly boring, and this I think is because of the easy mode problem. The gap is vast between easy mode and medium mode, outside the devs trolling people that have been waiting for the game for 5 years. The truth is that I think the original Quake modders were good at Quake. They wouldn't have noticed if the game was difficult or not, because they had 25 years to get good, and they are masters of the game. So if you're going into this expecting a walk in the park, something easy to get used to, you're sorely mistaken. This is on the level of a build hit scanning game like Ion Fury in terms of difficulty. This could be why there are some spikes in difficulty, even on the easy mode, and especially on the medium and hard modes. While also in other places it's lax in difficulty, like the boss fights or some open arenas. Just be warned, you are going to get smacked around on your first run. That is for certain. If you don't know what's coming, you're gonna have a tough time, especially on the later hubs when things start to get a little dicey. Though personally, I do admit, I really enjoyed the challenge. But can I tell you what really scared me? So that something actually frightened me in my core, was the Langoliers. Now, yeah, sure, I think they actually have a proper name, but I can't for the life of me think of anything else than the Langoliers. It's those monsters with all the mouths that have that really bad roar. These bastards that are on your screen right now. Fuck these guys. These were horrible. These were so bloody scary. They scared the living shit out of me every time they would come onto the screen. And you know what? On easy or hard, they were scary to deal with. That was until I found a little bit of a workaround with the Ruin Blade. Only many hours later, after many deaths, I found that the Ruin Blade was a great tool to one-shot kill these guys, which really quieted my mind, and I was able to power on through for the rest of the game. But we'll get into the Ruin Blade in a little bit. I have a special place for that one. So yeah, the difficulty is going to be a little bit jarring for new players, but not too difficult for those that have been playing Quake and Doom mods for the last 20 to 35 years. 25 to 35 years. A long time is what I'm saying. But speaking of saving, alright, so I feel that Wrath, when it first started, had only shrines. So throughout the game, you have these places called shrines. You can go to the shrines and they're like checkpoints where you walk into them, you save, you get all your life back, and that's pretty fine. And these are scattered throughout the levels, this is nothing too weird. But then I feel that somewhere along the line, and I think again, I have no proof of this, but I'm just guessing here, that somewhere along the line we had Proteus come out, and when Proteus had those weird save states and people couldn't save where they wanted, I think people might have gone back in Wraith and added in tethers. Now tethers or soul tethers are basically a means to save anywhere in the game. Now they're a limited resource. You have to collect little soul tether energy ball thing skulls throughout the maps, and that gives you this resource where you can save wherever you like. Now this does reduce the challenge of trying to get to checkpoint, but it does help because the challenge can be so difficult you might need to save before you get into a difficult spot, which you wouldn't know if you're on a blind run, but whatever. But then they go one step further and then they add an option in the menus to have infinite soul tethers. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, I use infinite soul tethers for a large portion of that medium part of my review initially because damn, it was tough and I was still new to the game. But after a while, when I went back and played on easy, I realized I didn't use the soul tethers actually that much. Again, speaking to that difficulty gap. Now I don't feel that this is a problem, honestly, it just is weird. Why not just pick one or the other? Why not then just have save scumming? You know, I get why you might start on shrines, then go to tethers, and then, you know, all that as like a design change later down the line, but that's what weirds me out. Rather than why not just remove the shrines? You just have soul tethers and have that as a limited resource. That could be an interesting thing. Again, not a problem. It doesn't take anything away from the game. It's just weird. You know? And you know what? I'm not that kind of guy. This doesn't upset me. I know this upsets a lot of people for some reason because skill issue, but it doesn't upset me at all. Like, I think there is a world where people have a shrine-only challenge run, or a tetherless run, or a no-save run, or whatever have you. I think that's pretty cool. You can mix those challenges up. I think Wrath Aeon of Ruin has the opportunity for something like that. But it does piss me off when you lose an hour's progress going blind into a thing. You forget to use your tether, you die, and then all you have is like your shrine from an hour ago. Yeah, that pissed me off, not gonna lie. But hey, it's not the end of the world, just the way the game is. So that was a little jarring. So let's talk a little bit about the aesthetic and the backdrop of this really interesting game here. Wrath Aeon of Ruin, like you would imagine, is based originally on Quake. Well, at least the Quake engine. So, especially in Hub 1, you're going to have a lot of those kinds of elements. Yes, the game is divided up into 3 hubs, and each hub has roughly 5 zones. I don't want to call them missions because this game is very non-linear. You don't actually have to go one by one in terms of your missions. You can just, once you're in the hub, you can pick one of any of the 5. Though I don't think you can go back to previous hubs. I didn't see an option to do that. You can only go forward. So once you finish the hub, you go to the next one and you don't go back, and you can pick any one of those 5 zones at your discretion. I think this is pretty cool. This is very much Quake inspired, especially with Quake 1, where you're able to choose both your chapters and your difficulty by traversing into that section. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but just a quick talk on the styles of the hubs, because I think it's very important. Hub 1, you're going to find a lot of your traditional dungeons, corridors, castles, that kind of thing. You know, Quake, right? But that's kind of where everything changes. I feel Hubs 2 and 3 is where Wrath really becomes its own game. This is where Wrath becomes Wrath and no longer a Quake mod. In Hub 2, you get the traditional mysterious desert aesthetic, though I find that for the most parts in Hub 2 and 3, the developers really try hard to not lean into any tropes that you may see in other games when it comes to deserts or hell or anything like that. They really try and make something their own. And then when we get into Hub 3, the flesh worlds, that becomes like this gross bloodied hell of bodies and blood, and actually it's pretty good. And I find Hub 3 is where they combine the best elements of Hub 1 and 2 to try and increase the verticality, the size of the levels, the complexity, while also including tight corridors and complex arenas. It's actually very, very good. And Hub 3 includes traps, which was a shock at first, but I mean, they're not too difficult. Just, you know what you're doing. And then at the end of each hub, once you've finished every zone, you unlock the boss fight. And at the end of every boss fight is one of the guardians that you need to now defeat to save the realms. And I haven't talked about the story, but we're going to touch on that in the end. Like I said, I really like the way that the developers have struck a good balance between the familiar and the traditional without feeling too tropey in theme or aesthetic. And on harder difficulties, the hub system, or the hub and spoke. Oh yeah, just figured that out. Hey, look at me, I'm intelligent, I know things. The hub and spoke model basically lets you go back into other maps or zones and collect ammo or artifacts that you may need for that boss fight or later in the rest of the game. At the end of the day, this approach to level design and game development was quite refreshing. Not something that a lot of games do these days, and especially in the boomer shooter space, this was a great take, and I like this approach. Creates a sense of freedom for the player, where normally you're just going one straight line. This allows you to just kind of do what you like. And if you look at the way each zone is, especially in Hub 1, where you have these massive open areas, traversal and discovery throughout the game is very cool. It feels like you can go to many places, find many secrets, pick up items, things that you would have never otherwise seen, see different ways to approach a situation. There's no one specific way, and I like that, and I think a lot of people are going to like it as well. It's different, and I like that you don't just run in blasting every second. There's some thought to it. There's some tactical movements involved, and that's what's refreshing for me. You know, why do I bother writing things when I've literally not stuck to most of the script? Anyway, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. At least you know it's raw. Being inspired by Doom, Quake, and Duke Nukem, Wrath has some very interesting takes on the traditional weapon slots. What you'll notice straight away that Hub 1 offers you pretty much the majority of your weapon roster. Naturally, it's inspired by Quake, so you're going to get a lot of those traditional Quake-ish weapons. An interesting variant is a 3-barreled revolver. A solid gun. Good gun. I use it throughout my run, both the easy and the medium. It's got range, it's got an alt fire which bounces off walls and can take out hordes of zombies. Good gun. Solid gun. Always very useful. I like it. The 3-barrel revolver. 10 out of 10. Then you get the shotgun. Now let me just say, when you get the shotgun for the very first time in Hub 1, it is glorious. It is meaty. It packs a punch. This is a legitimately powerful shotgun, and it feels that way. Both the sound and the execution, as well as the damage output. This is a great shotgun, and it reminded me of the first time I gripped something hard in my hands. Later in the game, it remains a very good close-range weapon, but becomes more situational. As Hubs 2 and 3 start opening up a lot more, you're going to start to realize that the shotgun becomes much more your close mid-range weapon than your far-out weapon, and you're going to need to be diverse. Then we get Wraith's equivalent of the nail gun, which is not actually the nail gun, it is the fang gun, or the fanger. And again, it has a proper name that I don't remember because I'm calling it the fanger, because I like the way that sounds. But essentially, it shoots fangs, just like the nail gun in Quake. It's your machine gun slot, or your submachine gun slot. A quick comment here though, I did notice that like the Fanger and a few other guns, they are not as strong to enemies that drop ammo for those guns as other enemies. So for example, the Langolier monster, who I don't like, and those fast, quick little zombies that scare the living shit out of me, they drop fangs, ammo for this weapon. They are not very weak to the Fanger weapon itself, so you might want to switch to a shotgun. Now, this and the next gun, the Wretcher, both of these guns get dropped by enemies. Now you'll see that the way the game seems to work, or at least this might be a placebo, I don't know, but the game wants you to mix and match your weapons to the enemy. So you're going to use your shotgun on the zombies or the Langoliers, maybe the Ruin Blade, and you're going to switch back to the Fanger to take out something at range, and so on and so on. The game kind of prompts you to mix it up a little bit, so you're not just relying on your super shotgun for the entire game, which can get a little bit boring. So I think that's quite a nice effect. Now again, this could be completely made up in my head, but that's at least what it feels like. Now, the Wretcher. that spitting gun that I was just mentioning, spits goops of acid, which takes like your handy grenade gun slot. I found the retro works really well with large enemies or groups of enemies, something that you need to just, mow down a big horde of them or get somebody on a ledge. It's quite nice, it's an effective gun. I never felt like the retro packed much of a punch, but it does do pretty good damage, and I found myself relying on it quite often. And then finally, right at the end of Hub 1, we get one of my favorite guns, the Slag Cannon. Basically, Rod's idea of the mini rocket launcher from Duke or the rocket launcher from Doom. And honestly, it is a welcomed relief of a gun. When you're going up against spongy enemies like the Molten Golem, again, probably not its name, or the Langolier, again, not its name, the Slag gun finally just takes them out a lot quicker. And honestly, it's such a relief. You tend to not have to be so tactical with your weapon. You can just lob some slag rockets and just pound them until they're dead. It's a good damage per second weapon. I liked it, and I like the punch it takes. And now, like I said, that's the end of Hub 1, and that's kind of where the similarities end with the weapons, because Hubs 2 and 3 really introduce things that are fresh, and they're very interesting. In Hub 2, you're first introduced to the sniper-like Lance, which basically amounts to a railgun. But it has a really neat and catchy shield like Alt Fire, which you can use against most enemies' missiles and blast them back at them. I didn't use the Alt Fire that much. I kind of just used the Lancer as the railgun sniper it was meant to be, and it was quite nice for what it was. One-shot kill for most enemies, neat, good, go home, it's finished. But then what I think is basically the quintessential Wrath gun, other than the Ruin Blade or the Tri-Revolver, is the Crystallizer. Crystallizer, I think, is more of a skill-based weapon, and it really stands on its own. Its Alt Fire turns monsters into crystals, which you can then use its primary fire to kind of reflect off and shoot a whole bunch of other monsters at the same time, depending on the reflection, which kills then more monsters. It's super creative, and it's very unique to this game. I like it, and I love it when developers try and do new things with weapons, because yeah, the traditional super shotgun slots and all of that, that's fun stuff, that's good stuff. No one's going to take you away from that. But this is where the fun begins. This is where the interesting things start to happen, where developers take a second back and say, how can we try something new? And I think the Crystallizer really is that kind of weapon, where it is new, it is fresh, and it's always a pleasure to whip out. The only problem with the gun is that I found the ammo scarce in every hub and in every map for every difficulty. It just didn't feel like there was enough ammo around to really use the gun effectively and consistently, which maybe is okay. You don't want to rely on it too much, but then I found myself not being able to experiment so much, and that was a little bit of a sad thing. But hey, still fun, very cool weapon. But now, the most ridiculous gun or weapon that I've ever used in a video game, the mace. This is essentially what the development team call their version of the BFG. Now, when I saw this over on Twitter, they posted something about the mace on Twitter, and I was like, and they were like, oh, this is our BFG. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you and every other oak that's made a boomer shooter, you've got a BFG, good for you, that's wonderful. But then I used it. And it's really, really good. So the mace basically is a melee weapon, perfectly fine, like the Ruin Blade. It is a one-shot kill to most of your enemies. Most enemies will die by one shot with this mace. The difference is that the mace charges up with the power of souls for everything you kill. And at first, I wasn't sure why the game kept feeding me fodder zombies, because unlike games like Doom Eternal, you don't really need fodder zombies or fodder enemies to, power up ammo or weapons. The zombies don't drop a lot of ammo at all, so I didn't really see the point. And then you get the mace and you realize these zombies are for the mace. So you power up the mace by killing zombies, any other enemy actually, and that kind of like unlocks it basically, and it looks really badass. And then you use the Alt Fire, which basically releases a massive wave of homing projectiles that just hunt down every enemy in the arena or the map that it can see and just blows them up. Finished. It is ridiculously powerful, and it is always satisfying to use. I once accidentally used it in a corridor, and it was just insane. Oh, and then, yes, of course, before I forget, the Ruination Blade. So the Ruination Blade, look guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, I threw it away. It was in the bin for me. I didn't really care about the Ruination Blade. It was one of these things where I was like, oh yeah, they have a melee weapon which kind of doesn't do anything, so what am I gonna bother with? And then did I only realize, silly me, that the developers are actually damn geniuses, because not only does the Ruin Blade allow you to traverse through the entire map and jump higher and jump further, that's all very good stuff. The Ruin Blade's dash move kind of acts as a one-shot one-shot kill to most enemies, especially those damn Langoliers. This is the weapon that you'll start to realize later on in the map, like I did, or later on in the game, that is actually essential. It is the weapon that you need to have in your hand when you don't have your shotgun in your hand. It needs to be there all the time, not just to traverse, but because it can make quick meat out of any troublesome enemy. And that really helps with higher difficulties in the later hubs, where you just have a lot of spongy enemies like the molten golems or the Langoliers. You're just going to be knocking through them 1-2 shots done and moving on with your life, rather than sitting there pounding on them with shotgun shells or slags and things like that. So I really found the Ruination Blade to be essential in the final hubs, if not a necessity. Necessity? I don't know if I'm using that right. I could be. Someone correct my English in the comments. I'm a little bit tired. That's the reality. Unexpectedly, the OP weapon of the game for both movement and damage. You can't go wrong without it. Other than the mace, which I just really enjoyed, the Ruin Blade turns out to be the best weapon in the game. Who knew? Quick one though, I haven't touched on the artifact. So this is kind of where these light role-playing game elements start to penetrate Wrath. Most of these artifacts or items are scattered throughout each level and every hub, and they do vary on rarity. For example, I would find a life siphon, basically where you get life for every enemy you kill. Pretty common one for me. I use it quite a lot in tougher segments, but I also really enjoyed the confounding altar, which if you threw it at an enemy, they would make the enemies fight each other. I always used the confounding altar when there were just hordes of Langoliers and golems and that kind of thing, and you had to kind of just make some things up, and I found the altar a really great, fun mechanic to use. Good item. Each artifact is hidden somewhere on the map, and sometimes they're pretty easy to find, but you're also going to find yourself having to traverse to find these, or discover secrets in one of these expansive sections of the map. Like I said, generally always useful and a lot of fun to use. I didn't find that there was an item that I didn't use or didn't find interesting to play. But that's kind of where the RPG elements end, and I want to touch on the story. I said I would. I know the developers have mentioned that they use an NPC called the Shepherd throughout the game to kind of add more narrative elements to it. There's also, throughout the game, a bunch of scrolls you can go and find, which give you notes and stories about the universe, fleshing out the Wrath universe. And don't get me wrong, I think there is a lot here to expand upon. Just like a medieval, there is so much going on. There's a lot of interesting things happening, and I want to find out more, but I didn't feel like it was very good here. I felt the story was fine. I just didn't care. Like, I know that we are apparently going throughout the realms to defeat guardians that have now been corrupted and fallen into evil or some such thing. Now, I didn't really pick that up until maybe Hub 2, where it became, the message was just, you know, more consistent. But when I first started the game, I had no idea what I was doing or why I was there. Maybe the developers were too mysterious with their NPC of the Shepherd, though that character within itself was a good element, I will admit that. When people ask me in a few years what I liked and what I remember about Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, I'm not going to really talk about the story. I'm going to talk about the traversal. I'm going to talk about the Ruin Blade and the mace and the crystal gun when people ask me about Wrath. I'm going to talk to them about the challenge and the expansive world that I found and how I liked jumping from place to place and how it made me feel mobile and free while I'm able to blast through monstrosity of the otherworldly realms. That's what I'm going to remember about Wrath. I'm not going to worry too much about these strange boss stories. That's the important thing about games like Wrath, that we do remember these important elements, the parts the developers poured their passion into. We can all see it. Something crafted with love. Veterans of the modding community. Developers with vision to create something their own. Something that had never been done before, but inspired by what had come before. How often does a game come from apparent development hell, which I know a lot of people and fans thought it had been in, apparently not. How often does it happen when games are in development hell and then rise to become something that's actually pretty good? Look, Wrath is a great game. And no, not a perfect game, and you know what? Definitely not my favorite game. What game is at the end of the day? I've become a bit of a snob, I think. Have I? I don't think so. I like games. I think, mostly. Yes, I like games. But Wrath does make strides in reinventing the Quake formula and does its own thing, and I do think it has a firm and cozy place amongst its comrades, amongst Ion Fury, Dusk, and a Medieval on the boomer shooter pantheon. And that's what happens when you let passionate people work on things that they love doing. That's what happens when you give a shit about your job. You create a retro first-person shooter inspired by history's greatest FPS games. And that, my friends, is why I recommend Wrath, Aeon of Ruin. That's it. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you'd like to support my work here on YouTube or across the internet, I have a Patreon that basically just increases your social media clout to say that you're that cool. And for those that already support me there, thank you so much. You guys are absolute legends. I really appreciate you. If you guys are interested in trying out any of the games I talk about on this channel, or anywhere in fact, you can look at my Steam Curator page in the description. I'm trying to call it New Kid Gaming so it isn't just Hyacsho all the time. And you might find some gems that I haven't spoken about on the channel yet. But anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. And until next time, please take care, rip and tear. Cheers. This beard. You know, is the teddy bear. Was he there all the time? Is he watching? Is the teddy bear watching? I can't tell. Anyway, this has been really cool. So seriously though, I am trying this whole thing where I do a little bit less editing, a bit more me. I'm still a little rusty. This is my first video in like 3 months, and I'm just, yeah, I'm sorry about it. I'm sorry that it took so long, guys. It's been a wild ride this year, if I'm honest, so far. But hey, I'm hopefully back on a good track. Let's not try and be too perfect. Let's just try and have some fun, eh? I think that's the most important thing. Have some fun, play good games, enjoy the games. Yeah, I think that's going to be great. Well, I hope you liked the video. I think that's the most important thing. This is an outtake. Is this an outtake? It could be an outtake. Anyway, irrelevant. I hope you liked the video. I'm gonna have a sandwich. That's what I'm gonna do. Definitely a sandwich.